So what can we do? What's next? Well, it's time for our leaders to act. They need to act to address the consequences of the oil spill in the Gulf, to hold polluters accountable, to fend off these cynical attacks on the Clean Air Act and on state laws like the historic law in California, which is now being attacked by two oil companies putting huge amounts of money into that state to try to overcome the public interest. We have to solve the climate crisis at the local, state, regional, national, and global level. So it's time to stand up and reaffirm to our elected officials that we need them to lead. They have to stop filibustering and start creating jobs. They have to take action to save our future. We must defend efforts. We must defend the Clean Air Act and fight back against efforts to weaken it. That will be one of the battles that lies just ahead. We have to protect our air and water and keep it clean. We have to reject the attempts by the polluters to roll back the progress that's been made. And we have to defeat the special interests. So it's time to shift the balance of power from the interests of the polluters and their lobbyists to the interests of the American people. But if we're going to repower America, we need all of you to continue to be involved in this historic effort. We are at a critical turning point. You've heard the old cliche often that it's darkest just before the dawn. You've heard the saying, we have just begun to fight. Both of those sayings apply to this situation. We need you now more than ever. We want to hear directly from you. We need your ideas and your input. We want to know how you will be recommitting to the fight ahead. At the end of this call, I want to ask you to go to our website at repoweramerica.org and tell me what you think. Share your ideas. I'm personally asking you to recommit to joining me in the fight that lies just ahead. We have to continue to make certain that we protect the future of our civilization, that we protect the global environment, that we protect those who are leading the way on clean energy and climate solutions, help those who were with us during this battle and who we need to continue to be with us, push back on efforts to block the reductions in greenhouse gases. With their recent advances, our opposition is emboldened, but that's just another reason why we have to redouble our efforts. We don't really have that much time to turn the tide, but we have enough time. We can take the bold steps that will turn this tide. We can protect our national security and our economy and our future. And as Americans, we know that there's no better time to restore the promise of America and secure a better future for our children and grandchildren. Now, I want to leave a little time for some questions, so I'm going to end in just a moment. But I want to end as I began by expressing my thanks to all of you. Without the work that all of you have done on this call tonight, we would not have gotten as far as we have. Many thought it was impossible to pass legislation in the House of Representatives. Many thought it was impossible to get a 60% majority among the American people to support the initiatives that are now still pending. Well, these things happen because you have written tens of thousands of letters, made hundreds of thousands of telephone calls, talked to people personally, taken countless hours out of your lives to visit congressional offices, write your newspapers, sign petitions, and to be the force for the change that we need. So, again, I thank you personally for your dedication, your passion, your time, and your commitment. You truly have been an inspiration for me. And we need inspiration still. This has been a challenging year, to say the least. But we are not defeated. We redoubling our efforts. We simply cannot lose this fight, and we will not lose this fight. too much depends on it. Our greatest work and our most important successes still lie ahead of us. And I take great comfort and pride in the fact that I know I can count on you to keep up this fight with me. So thank you very much. And on that note, I'll ask Giselle to present a few of your questions for me.
Thank you, Chairman Gore, and thank you again to everyone who submitted questions for our chairman when signing up for the call today. Our first question is actually from David in New York. He writes, so-called ClimateGate became a front-page scandal. Why are we ineffective at exposing the real scandal for knowingly spreading false information on such an important issue?
Well, I believe Mark Twain often gets the credit for the saying, David, that a lie runs around the world before the truth gets its boots on. I'm not sure that that's the real reason for it, but there is a sad but undeniable truth that those who wanted to try sowing confusion used an echo chamber from blogs and talk show hosts and biased right-wing media to promulgate the distortions of the paid skeptics and professional deniers who tried to undermine the evidence. There have been, of course, multiple formal inquiries, all of which have dispelled the falsehoods that go under the title of ClimateGate. The three separate inquiries conducted not only cleared the scientists and the organizations involved, but strongly reaffirmed the basic assertions that they have been making. I'll give you one example. The Wall Street Journal wrote upwards of 30 editorials and news stories during the time the story about the University of East Anglia broke, and not a single one of them presented the side of the science. There are many other examples, as you know. It is our responsibility to demand that reporters, editors, and all journalists report the truth. It is only through consistent and constant pressure from us demanding equal time and coverage in local and national media that we will get the truth out. And that is why it is so critical to write letters to the editor and post comments online, to draft and write op-eds that share your point of view and use the facts and spread them far and wide. Only when the media hear from enough of us will they change their habits and print the truth about these scientific facts.
Thank you. I think we have an additional question, and this one is from Sean in Ohio. He writes, this is a really partisan issue, right? I mean, if people don't believe in the science and don't believe what they are seeing and feeling outside, how can we ever get them to vote for a bill that addresses those things?
Well, I don't think it should be a partisan issue. It didn't used to be a partisan issue. I think it's a moral issue. The reality of the climate crisis and its impacts on the environmental conditions that are favorable to human beings should, of course, transcend any differences, geographic, national, certainly political and ideological. Our goal needs to be to use this truth, inconvenient as always, but nonetheless real, to communicate the urgency of the crisis and the availability of the solutions that are good for us for multiple other reasons, and to communicate these truths clearly enough that it becomes obvious to people of all walks of life and of every political persuasion that we have a moral duty to act. We need to build not simply the strength and breadth of these convictions, but also the intensity of the feeling, because it's this intensity that our leaders will not ignore.